But I also know that certain parties involved in the fracas, as it were, are not the bravest people. And listening to your story, Richard, and knowing the people's involved, your version rings most true. That is absolutely the way it would have been handled internally at DreamHack, if not an adult had stepped in, as it were. Sorry about my voice. I got a horrendous man flu.
No, it's all right, mate. You want to lay off? You want to lay off that wine, brother? It's going to wreck your immune system, dude.
No, and I just feel sad that where esport is going. It used to be a fun place, but now it becomes less and less so. More corporate, less entertaining.
Well, here's the thing, though. Entertaining. I mean, this was definitely entertaining to a lot of people.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing that blew my mind. Right, there was 1 year ago. I reported on a punch-up at ESWC between a women's Counter-Strike team and friends of a team they beat in the final. It was predicated on the fact that 2 of the players in the winning team weren't from France. And there was accusations of racism, nationalism, and this resulted in actually cuts, bruises. It went on for a while. It involved outside people. I reported on this pretty much exactly 1 year ago, and I would have thought that would have been like a massive, massive deal. No one gave a fuck. So I don't get why this is the act of violence that's the tipping point. Yeah, I'm fucking super regretful about it. Yeah, I wish it hadn't happened. Yeah, if I could go back in time, I'd handle things differently. But it's not like there hasn't been crazy fucking shit that's gone on in esports before. And it's not like there hasn't been violence that's happened in esports before. I don't get why I'm being sort of held up as the person that's been the most extreme. It's like even the language that's being used doesn't really...
Are they? They're not making you look like it's never happened before.
Man. You're a dinosaur. That's the whole industry and the whole space is changing pretty rapidly, becoming less rough, becoming less by the people for the people, and becoming corporate. That's the sad truth.
So if DreamHack wasn't bought by MTG, would it have been?
No, it's good. That's got nothing to do with it, dude. Listen, DreamHack have always been like. They're a Swedish company. They embody whatever the Swedish zeitgeist is at the time, and obviously now it's like, descendants of Vikings. They are not anymore, and they're ultra progressive. I mean, this is the kind of thing that honestly, it's pretty much happened at like. I can think this kind of thing's happened at multiple Call of Duty lands, multiple Counter-Strike source lands I've attended in the UK. And it usually just doesn't blow up like this.
So what do you think is
which isn't to excuse my behavior, but the idea that I'm the first guy that's ever put hands on someone at a LAN when they got in their face is just not true.
Nobody's saying that, right? Like I haven't seen that being spun as you being the introduction to violence in esports.
No, but rather, it's not that that's what anyone's explicitly saying. It's what people are explicitly not saying. Like no one's like say
something. Yeah,
you're the sacrifice, Richard.
That's I don't know. Steven, do you get that perception? You think people are labeling Richard as the first guy to introduce violence to esports and all this kind of thing? I don't think.
I don't know. Like I said, I think everybody acted pretty fucking stupidly here. I think the punishment might be like a little bit overload. Like nobody was. I don't know. Nobody was actually hurt. Like nobody has any broken bones. I think Loda tweeted like some little picture that looked like he got a hickey from his girlfriend, and like that was really all that came of it. It seems kind of strange that we're getting into like permanently banning people from anything. I don't know. I guess in my opinion, it seems kind of strange, but yeah.
Well, I see a definite threat from Thorin being banned from ESL and now Richard being banned from DreamHack. There is a storyline here.
I mean,
no, I don't agree with that. Robert.
You don't have to, but that's just how I see it, perceive it.
It's not that. I mean, look, what happened here was, unfortunately for me, it was somebody that had a lot of reach on social media and sort of wasn't afraid to use it and was being egged on to use it. And even though I certainly wasn't the instigator and would much rather go through an event not feeling like somebody wanted to fight me or beat me up and not wanting people's girlfriends coming backstage and shouting at me.
I'm sorry. So this is something that I don't understand. Why?
Because it's less Twitter followers.
Why was Kelly even allowed backstage? How did she get backstage?
This is the point. This is the point.
That seems really strange.
Right, no, listen. Right. So what people don't realize is, by virtue of being a player or a manager, you have full access to everywhere.
Okay.
To everywhere. And this is the thing. There's no real way to fix this problem because I'm not necessarily against that. Right, we had a great time backstage in the CS green room with players coming back in between games and giving us insight into the maps and talking about things that have been going on in the scene. And the only way you could have prevented this kind of preemptively would have been to not have players coming backstage, full stop, as a rule, and that would suck. But the point is, you can't then just say, well, okay, maybe Dota players can't come into the CSS area because that makes no sense. Because most of the time they'd have no reason anyway. The people that are going to be the most annoyed about anything I say or Thorin says or anyone else, the people who are going to have the most beef, it's all community based. So there wasn't any way to have a blanket rule. I mean, they did say to me, DreamHack, that in light of all of this, they might revise their security rules and their access policies, which is, scant consolation after the fact. But, it's just, it's just one of those things that I guess people hadn't anticipated how heated things could get. And that's my point. And that was my point today. That I find that surprising because things get heated all the fucking time at esports events.
So, Richard, why are you being sacrificed on the altar of I don't know what it is? Why you?
What?
Probably because he was the one that choked somebody.
Yeah, I mean, what do you mean, Robert?
Without getting too conspiratorial, like you have to be able to understand all points. Like
the Socratic question: why did you get?
Well, yeah, but you're Socratically leading us to the whole of everything is becoming corporate and no fun allowed, which I don't necessarily agree is like the logical destination for here. Like, I mean, I can understand how things like blew up the way they did. Like, when you have people who are going crazy on fucking social media, like, it requires some type of response by the organizers. The organizers responded in the way they felt most appropriate. I mean, maybe because of Richard's position at DreamHack is why they felt like they couldn't work with him. I mean, I don't know. Like, but like, we can argue the merits of the punishment and whether the punishment is just without going full conspiratorial. They're sacrificing Richard Lewis for no reason.
Either both are banned or none is banned.
Either both. What is bad?
He means me and Loda are banned.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I agree with that. Sure, I definitely agree with that. Yeah,
I don't disagree.
But keep in mind that look at the difference between the two's position at DreamHack. Loda isn't necessarily an employee. Well, Loda's not an employee of DreamHack, and Richard Lewis is there. Even if you say you're not, to some extent representing DreamHack, right? So you can make an argument for more harsh punishment or punishment.
Yeah, because he's officially like a proxy for DreamHack for DreamHack, even though you're a contractor. I hear myself. Robert, is that coming from yours?
Is it
it
me?
Definitely is.
No.
Yeah, it's definitely Robert.
Fuck off.
All right, well, why don't we definitely got to get some more
I get what you're saying, brother. Like, it's just I don't think this has anything to do with MTG. I think, look, obviously this is about something I did, and DreamHack. I'll be honest. I don't know if a player had fucking choked me if they would have been banned. And again, this term choke. I'm only using the term choke because I prefer it to strangle, which is just sounds so horrendous. But I think if a player had done that to me, I don't think they do get banned. And as I said, I've got previous of being assaulted at events. I've got previous of being threatened to be stabbed at events, and no one gives a fuck because I think everyone thinks I'm big enough and ugly enough to look after myself, which is probably true. But it does feel at times that there's a bit of a double standard in play. But anyway.
All right, Robert. Well, thanks, man. We got to get some more call-ins, so appreciate it.
Yeah, take care, brother.
It's been too long, buddy. It's been too long. All right. Man, he sounded like he was about to die there, coughing and stuff.
No, he's been pretty sick lately, so I've been trying to call that fucking asshole and go for drinks. And,
it's cool.
When he says man flu, he's not joking.
All right,
I see TVs in the chat.
Oh yeah, he might have just joined or stuff. But let's take some other call-ins, and we'll be taking. This is just going to be one of these shows where we just take whoever. But we do have some viewers, fans that want to call in. First guy we got SCV. SCV, welcome.
Hello.
To the show. Oh, welcome to the show, buddy.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, you got a question for us?
Yeah, actually, I do. It's actually mostly to Richard.
Of course.
So, naturally. So what's the plan moving forward? Do you want to still keep doing events, or are you going to try to get as many as possible, or do you plan on sticking more to the journalism for right now, let things cool down and see what happens?
I mean, the good news is, I guess, I had a break anyway. It was the end of the DreamHack tour, so I guess that's one way to fucking end things. I didn't have a plan to do another event this year anyway. And I told everybody I need a month off because it was like getting really exhausting. I think I've been away something like 31 weekends this year. So yeah, I didn't have any plan to do any more events. Now, when events start up again, which is going to be January, obviously people are going to have to make a decision on whether they want to hire me or not. And so far, nobody's come out and said to me, Richard, we wouldn't want to hire you. In fact, it's quite the opposite. This is a mistake on my part, but it's a contextual mistake in the sense that there was a very specific set of circumstances that led to it happening. I don't feel entirely responsible for that set of circumstances. So hopefully, and I say hopefully, I'll qualify this. It doesn't really matter if I never work another event again. Ultimately,
it'd be a shame if you didn't work. You're the best. You're the best panel host that CS has.
But now
no, you are the best panel host. No matter what anybody says.
That, of course, because this is how it works. So when you're a good guy and you do good work, like after Cluj, for example, you're the best host that's ever lived. And of course, now that you've done something people don't like, and as I stress, what's more importantly is it's not that I've done something people don't like, disapprove of, that's wrong, whatever. It's the fact that I'm just sort of not being like, please spare me, don't ruin my life, and being scared of the mob. That's why I'm getting as much nonsense as I am. But anyway, so the point is that I look, if I never work another esports event again, it doesn't really impact on me too much. That isn't who I am or what I ever wanted to do. I embraced the host role because people wanted to hire me for it, and I did a few gigs and people said I would be good at it. And it's ironic that Robert was, well, not ironic, that's the wrong word, but it's coincidental that Robert was just previously on the call. He's the guy who was pushing for me to be a host in the first place. When people were saying, Richard Lewis is a bit controversial, though. Now, when it comes to hosting, hopefully people can judge me on my merits. Evidently, they can't. It's been the type of criticism that's been leveled at me has been fairly nonsensical. Like, by all means, think I handled this particular situation terribly. Castigate me for refusing to apologize to the community. I don't believe I owe the community an apology. Whatever, but to take away from things that have previously been stated just seems a bit ridiculous. But anyway, so events, I'll take them as they come. People know where to find me. People know if they want to hire me. I'm pretty sure there'll be a big mob that's going to be pushing for me to never do a major, for example, or to never do an esports event every time I'm announced. I imagine, for the foreseeable future, for the next 6 months at least, I imagine there'll be groups basically trying to pressurize the company into not hiring me. But the good news is, for me, I've got certainly multiple other outlets. The reason I'm in a hotel, for example, I've just recorded a pilot show tonight, and they were very cognizant of the nonsense that was going on and the backlash and everything that had been said, right up until even the Hellspawn twit longer today. And that didn't stop them putting me on camera and recording the pilot. And equally as well, I'm in talks with a very prominent radio station. I've got a very lucrative job at Breitbart. It's not like this is the end. It's not like I'm going to be destitute and homeless no matter what happens. So for me, if people still want to work with me and realize this is like a one-off act in very exceptional circumstances, which I hope they could. It's not like I've been rolling around events for 10 years, beating up anyone who I don't like the look of. That's certainly not what's been happening. This is just like I say, it's a one-off incident. It's a one-off incident, and obviously I'm regretful about it. So I don't think it'll be the end. I don't think there's any need on my part to publicly come out and say I'm going to quit. I'm never going to do it again. And everyone that I've spoke to about it, who's in a position to maybe hire me, has said they still value my services and still would consider me a hireable prospect at this moment in time.
All right. Well, thanks for your question, SCV.
Yeah.
Take care, brother.
Okay. Next up, we got IAXX.
Hello.
Hey,
Hi.
how's it going?
Oh, shit. Hello.
Welcome to the show.
Yeah, hey, what's up? My question kind of has like a little story behind it. Why is DreamHack security so bad? Because at DreamHack 2014 in Bucharest, I was in the StarCraft area. I saw Huck, ran up to him, said hi, whatever. Started talking about the games with him, and he was heading in the backstage area, and I kind of just followed him in. Nobody cared. Like, we walked past the guards, like nobody looked at like my bracelet, the whole bracelet I had on. Nobody cared. We just walked backstage. I didn't even notice it was the backstage until I saw like a bunch of monitors, and it was like, well, I shouldn't be here. So yeah, that's. So I was just like wondering what's up with DreamHack security. Why does nobody care if like random people just walk in there?
I think this is a question that we can't really answer, but it might have something to do with the fact that they use a lot of volunteer workers whatnot too, and it's a pretty laid back event compared to, would be my guess.
I mean, look, I don't want this to be me just ripping on DreamHack, even though I have a sad feeling that's pretty much going to be the way it's going to go for the next however many weeks. I actually don't even think we're at the end of it where things stand. But I've got to say, it is a relaxed atmosphere. It's a dry venue for starters, so no one's drinking alcohol. Not legally, I should say, or not. So I think people relax, chill out. Obviously, there hasn't been any problems at a DreamHack in Jönköping before, so it's understandable that everyone's a bit relaxed. But yeah, I saw people that were wandering around backstage as well, and I didn't know who they were.
Yeah.
That
might change. That might change after all this, but yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, typically it has been more lax and
keep in mind that in this case too, actually, like more security wouldn't have really helped anything because everybody that was back there was authorized to be back there too. So.
Yeah, and there were people standing like right there. Anyway, I mean, they were actually security people, probably a few meters or few feet away from you guys. So that I don't think that would have changed anything. But yeah, I think the security's always been. It's not like a freaking fence around the events, and you have to walk through metal detectors and shit like that. And it's for the most part it's been safe, which is I think says a lot about the just gamers and things like that. That an event like a big LAN event like DreamHack has been safe for all these years, or at least hasn't had any kind of crazy incident. So it would be it's kind of what defines DreamHack, right? Or at least always has in the past. Just this kind of this free, just kind of what Robert alluded to. It's less formal. There was always something more.
Well, yeah, but less formal doesn't mean insecure areas. But again, this isn't even really relevant to anything.
Yeah. Anyways, I can't answer that question really because we don't.
Yeah, I mean, I can't. All I can say is, DreamHack did say to me that they would probably, in the aftermath, review the policies.
Yeah,
and then that's fine.
That should.
I'm sorry to put them in that position ultimately, because I think in 99.9% of cases it isn't necessary. I don't think people go to LANs with bad intentions. I just think that occasionally tempers are going to flare up, and I think we're all in the same boat in that. Players, managers, personalities, pundits, journalists, we talk about each other, and sometimes we say less than flattering things. And the reality is we are going to meet up. And just depending on in what mood you catch people, and social media can put anyone in a bad mood at any time. Obviously, people are going to have varying degrees of hostility. And no one's really expecting it when it happens. But as I did say, you can guarantee at least one flare up per event.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for your question, buddy.
Fair enough.
Yeah, take care,
Thanks
dude.
for having me.
Right. Next up, we got Moose. What's up, Moose? Oh, maybe not. Maybe you can't hear me. All right, we'll get Moose in a second.
No worries.
All right, let's go with.
Don't you have a screener for this shit?
I do, but he's muted and deafened, so he can't actually hear me. Oh God, ease up, boy, ease up. Locus.
Oh shit.
What's up, boy? Here we go. Here we go. This is for Steven, right? It's got to be for Steven.
No.
Oh.
This Richard drama was one of the best things. I mean, I'm sorry because it's at Richard's expense.
I'm sorry, do you have a
but
question?
it was one...
You
Yeah,
have
I do. Okay, don't worry about it. Don't worry. Come on, relax, buddy. Have to start it out. Quit. No. So, God, I have to mute the stream. Sorry.
All right, what's the question then? All right.
So in light of what happened, right? I was watching this drama and with a lot of people here, and it did seem like it was really entertaining for a lot of people. Esports is alive because of drama for the most part. A lot of people enjoy the drama aspect of esports, and if you were watching the two communities,
Words.
Yeah, I can hear you, Moose.
Oops.
Where did he go?
Oops, sorry.
They reacted very differently to the news of what happened with Richard Lewis, and the Dota community was super against that because they probably have less experience. He's not that big of Richard's not that big of a name in the Dota scene, and in the CS:GO community, a lot of people stood by what Richard was saying, and that Richard is probably in the right there. And the reality of the situation is that nobody has actually that much information of what happened at that time, right? Everybody's just circle jerking the people that they like and they value, the people that are from their community, right? But the problem is that at the end, it seems like everybody just loses. Like the Dota people are happy because Richard Lewis got removed from DreamHack, but I mean, what did they actually gain from that, right? He was not Richard. You weren't at the Dota events, you weren't harming them in any way, shape, or form. And it seems like what's happening is we're losing out. The CS:GO community is losing out on a experienced host. Like it seems that everybody loses in this equation, and it's not a.
Well,
and the reality of the situation is that.
What's the
what's the question here? I mean,
so how can we prevent this? Like, what do we do to prevent the circle jerk and manage to?
You can never prevent a fucking circle jerk. That's the problem. If people knew how to fucking do that, esports would be a tolerable industry to work in.
Well, I mean, so this is all assuming one thing. This is all assuming that DreamHack made their decision based on the reaction of the public. And
well, that's for sure. What?
But I mean, no, that's not for sure. Is that
I don't necessarily know that.
Yeah, you don't know that.
You could argue that they did it because that's what they thought was the most appropriate course of action. It's hard to say why exactly they made the decision. You may probably never know. I mean, you can't necessarily say for sure that they made it because of public outcry.
Right. So I mean,
we
can't assume that.
You really think that?
There's no precedent for this, so you can't really make that call one way or another. There's no precedent.
I think if it doesn't go public, I think there's a way we can all mend fences. I believe that. I believe that, but no, I disagree. I think DreamHack would have had to have arrived at a similar conclusion, no matter what.
Yeah.
I resent the sort of postulation that it's because they've never seen violence like this before, like it's some sort of next level.
Well, no, because sorry to interrupt. But DreamHack is a company, right? They're profit oriented. Why would they give up on an asset that they have? You as a host, as an experienced host. Like, what did they gain out of it? The only reason why they would let you go is to gain, some good PR. Like, because otherwise, in the future, somebody's gonna bring up, oh, DreamHack is that company that hires like the violent people or some shit, which is so stupid. I can't but I can't see your perspective. Why would you think that if there was no public outcry, Richard would not?
Well, no, I don't think any of us are saying that. It's just a combination of things. Like, if there was no public outcry at all, then obviously they probably wouldn't have fired Richard Lewis, right? Because why would you want to bring it up again? Because if you bring up that story when no one's talking about it, then it just looks bad. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure public outcry
there would
had
still be some. I wouldn't be surprised. There's still. I mean, it might not be the severity it is right now, but there would be. You got to take some precautions, regardless of if it's public or not, in terms of altercations in the backstage of your event, right? I mean. It just takes one other person, two other people to know that requires like the staff to come up with something. So I mean, whether it's like banning somebody from any of your events for lifetime, I mean that's obviously the most severe thing you can do, and that probably wouldn't have happened if it was just discussed behind the closed doors. But they would have done something. I mean, come on. Right. I
mean, real talk. Yeah. Even if it had never gone public, there would have been some form of sanction.
Yeah.
But nothing happened. That's the thing, though. Like, what the fuck? Nothing. You just said nothing happened. In the
Dave, what you've got to understand is, okay, so like Loda and Kelly are both representatives of Alliance. They feel they've been slighted. Alliance is obviously a big deal. They've been going to DreamHack for a while. The part of GGA. GGA is part of Twitch. This is obviously going to have ramifications. So the idea that once it's public, everyone gets to walk away scot-free, obviously that's not going to be the case. And while I would say I'm not the only person that was wrong, I guess on the balance of it all, I'm the most wrong. So, in the pie chart of wrongness, I've got the biggest slice. So as a result, I'm the guy that gets the brunt of it. And of course, the important thing here to stress is I didn't want to forego my right to talk about it again because I thought life can just go on. It's not like, I honestly think, and keep in mind, I've heard about lands in France where people have fucking maced each other and beat the shit out of each other in car parks and stuff. I'm very perplexed. I'm still perplexed as to why it's as big a deal as it is, but it is.
Car parks are different than the actual event, though, right?
Well, they're still technically part of it.
Some players are different than employees too. That's another thing.
Yeah, but I'm not an employee. I'm a hire, right? I'm a freelancer.
Well, contractor.
In esports, that's like almost.
I'm bound. Put it this way.
It's employee for the weekend. It's like
I'm bound by the exact same rules that Loda is.
Yeah.
No, but not. Well, I mean, you might be, but the level of representativeness that you guys have over the event is different.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. But equally, I would also say, it's like I've said, it's complex because I'm not trying to say I don't deserve any sanction or whatsoever, but I feel that I've been put in a situation where I've had to act, and I'd rather have wished that I wasn't. I certainly don't want people coming up and abusing me verbally, trying to physically intimidate me during an event. I don't want that. When I work for somebody, I think bare minimum is you can at least offer me that doesn't happen, and that's where my disappointment comes from. That even
yeah,
as
but again, I think it's hard. I think that it's hard. It's that line is kind of hard when you kind of goaded Loda into coming backstage, and then even followed up on Twitter when he didn't show up immediately.
And again, I want to stress at no point did I invite him backstage. I said I will be on the stage. That isn't the same.
Well, but the implication.
No, the implication is if you look at the tweet, the implication is I will be on stage because I'm working here. You won't be on stage because you're out of the tournament. I didn't say come backstage, and no point did I say that. So
I mean, we're getting into that. I mean, it's really just the second one. The second one's like, it's rude.
Yeah, the
whole rude thing. Okay, that was definitely.
Rather than me have to spend an entire day waiting for hey, is it going to be some ridiculous situation? I open the door, is Loda behind? Is this what I'm going to have to do? Like, am I going to have to walk on fucking eggshells and live in the corner of my eyeballs for the fucking entire day? No, I'd rather take charge and say, come and find me then. Let's see what you've got to say for yourself. Because that just makes more sense, right? Yeah. Rather than panicking and worrying about what's going to happen.
All right, buddy.
Destiny said this. Destiny said this earlier, but I mean, the implication of that conversation was that you're pretty much going to fight.
The implication of that conversation is if you're going to aggress onto me, then yeah, I'm not going to back down.
Exactly, right. And I personally feel like there's nothing bad happened. I think you should have knocked him the fuck out.
All right, dude. Thanks. All right. Thanks for your question, buddy. All right. Lucas. All right, let's see. I think somebody has a question for Steve. I'm trying to find somebody actually.
There's retards in here, like full on.
Find questions that don't like.
It's there in black and white. It's there in black and white.
I know exactly.
There in black and white. I'm easy to find. I'll be on stage. What you doing today? Followed by it's rude to keep people waiting like 1 hour later.
Yeah,
I mean, this is pretty.
Come on, it's rude to keep people waiting. Is like, bring it.
Okay,
you're basically saying bring it.
Okay, let's meet up and talk about it. Okay, I'm at DreamHack. Okay. I'm easy enough to find, dog. I'll be on stage. What are you doing today? Like that, we're goading at this point. I'll swing by, smiley face. Rude to keep people waiting when he does your by. We're goading pretty hard at this point, right?
No, but
I'm not disputing that. But I've told you why. If somebody says they're looking for you, and it's quite clear the implication is they're going to attack you. Why would I not want to control the venue where that confrontation happens? Why would I not want to do that?
Isn't there a difference?
The problem, no. Here's the problem. No. Here's the problem. Because what you're saying from like a person, like as a person, I understand what you're saying. But from a professional point of view, where you're hired by this event and you're working there, you kind of have to play the bitch. Like it sounds like a bad thing to say, but it's like professionally, that's what you have to do. Like you can't act out like you're ready to fight him because you're gonna get fucked professionally for it every time. That's kind of what I'm saying. Like I understand that, like I said, like, and I said this earlier, like morally or ethically, like personally, I don't think anything you did was wrong. Personally, I think you should just lay them the fuck out of it. Like looking at it from like a personal point of view, like I understand that, but from a professional point of view, where you're hired to do the event and you're there working an event, you kind of have to play the bitch. Like even if Loda is being like a piece of shit, like
it's not in me to do that.
It'd be analogous to,
honestly.
I don't know. Let's just say it was like a basketball game, right? And fans always heckling players, right, on the bench, right, yelling whatever the fuck they want to yell at the bench, and you're supposed to sit there and take it, right, the whole time, right? And security's supposed to be between you and that person, that usually, and that's what kind of separates it. But if for some reason there's a situation where the security's not there and the guy's in a player's face, or I think it's Jaleel Okafor recently. He's like hitting people. It's just.
Can either of you two guys, because obviously I respect you. Yeah. Can you tell me why professionalism only applies to journalists or commentators or unpopular figures? Never applies to players. Never.
That's.
Well, because it has to do with who's signing your.
I've never heard the term professional. It has to do with
player.
Ever.
Okay,
first of all, that's
about?
not true. No, that's not true. The term professionalism has been applied to tons of esports players.
Yes.
League players have been banned because of toxicity. StarCraft 2 players have gotten kicked
all the
off of
time.
teams.
Yeah, exactly. None of them get labeled unprofessional
like-
for it. None of them get
No,
labeled
there's been
unprofessional for it.
there have been tons of players in esports that have been labeled unprofessional for altercations. This has happened, and every single in the StarCraft 2 scene it's happened, in the CS:GO scene it's happened. I know I can think of specific examples in the league scene where it's happened with players that have gotten kicked off teams and called unprofessional for threatening.
These motherfuckers that are castigating me don't even know what a fucking employee and a contractor is. They don't even know the difference.
Well, it's because most of the people doing the Again, I'm not talking about what's like right around. The problem is like you can't look at it from like an ethical or moral or a man standpoint or whatever. You just have to look at it in terms of like how it goes. If you're an employee and you're employed at a certain area, like you always have to play the bitch. It's just how it works. Same thing with what Chris said. If you were like an NBA player and you were on the bench and there's literally a guy sitting behind you just screaming at you, nigga, just screaming as loud as
about
you
your
can.
family
and then you turn around and you fucking smash the dude in the face, the NBA player is always going to get fucked and fined and everything. Even if like from a personal point of view, it seems like, whoa, he fucking got laid out. Like obviously, like yeah, he deserved it. Like he should have gotten his face smashed in. It doesn't work that way because the NBA's or whoever the team owner who signs your paychecks, I guess the owner of the team or whatever, is paying you, and you're there. It doesn't matter if Joe Schmo nobody can say all the shit that you want. It sucks. It's shit, and I know how you feel, right? Because I go through this every day where a million fucking random anonymous fucking retards will talk shit on Twitter, and then if you respond, then you get fucked for it, right? But if DreamHack is someone signing your paychecks, you're unfortunately, for better or for worse, you're held to a higher standard of conduct than whatever fucking player
than a player who attends an event.
Yeah, you're always because anybody can qualify into the event. Literally anybody. I could have qualified into the event. Literally a KKK fucking anti-Jewish holding card carrying like Nazi party member could have qualified into the event, but DreamHack hired you as a contractor. DreamHack specifically contracted you, which to some extent shows
and that's fine. Right? But what I would say is within the context of the DreamHack rules, we should all be held to the same standard.
But if DreamHack is making the decision to hire one party and another party can qualify in no matter what, the party that DreamHack hired is always going to be held to a higher standard for DreamHack because DreamHack explicitly picked you to be there. So that shows endorsement. That's tacit endorsement.
You represent DreamHack for the weekend.
Yeah,
you do represent DreamHack for the weekend.
Whereas anybody could have qualified into the tournament. Some random fuck racist dude could have qualified in for the tournament, and maybe DreamHack would say something, maybe they wouldn't. But you're there endorsed by DreamHack because you're hired by them. Now, again, I'm not saying whether or not like it's necessarily fair or whatever, but like that's kind of how it goes. Since DreamHack is the one paying you and they chose you to be there, they're going to be more stringent with how they treat you versus how they treat a player.
Yeah, look, I've said I've got no issue with them taking a harder line against me than Loader. I've said that, right, over the course of the broadcast. But what I don't get is how this plays out publicly. That's what I'm talking about now. This isn't even about a DreamHack thing. This is a community thing, where it's like, you know, that's so unprofessional. Players don't seem to have.
Communities are always retarded. Communities are always retarded. It's not even worth talking about. Communities are always going to be fucking retarded. There's nothing that you can do. All you have to do is try to like figure out the best way to manipulate the PR in your favor. Fighting on Twitter usually doesn't accomplish that. But like communities are just like inconveniences that you have to navigate. You're never going to find like.
There's a real good comment here, right? And this sums it up. Yeah, it's TJ Philo. And he says, I agree with you, talking to you, Destiny. I work on a help desk as a technician, and people treat me like absolute shit on the phone. Yep. But I have to maintain a professional demeanor while talking to them. If someone randomly called my phone after work and talked to me that way, I tell them to fuck off. And it's like, yeah, he's right. Absolutely on the ball. But again, this is a bit of a fucking different situation to I'm working a bumfuck menial job and getting shit on, and that's part of the job. Right, because you're customer support or whatever, and you're meant to be the first line of someone unloading on you, and me and a player that I should never have to talk to and don't know, and I've got nothing to do with what he does for a living, and he's got nothing to do with what I do for a living, coming together because of something I tweeted on. So it's like apples and fucking oranges. I mean, like, people cannot compare this to like some normal, I work this job, and this is the key thing about it all, right? The people who were super fucking upset about it are the people who work jobs like that, are the regular guys who don't know that it's completely fucking different in what we're doing. I did those jobs. I've done the bitch jobs. Fucking hated every second of it. That's why I doubled down and went into fucking esports so I could get some autonomy and fucking take charge and be my own boss.
Yeah,
that's what I did.
and
I made sacrifices to be there. So don't take your fucking menial job and compare it to what I do for a living. The rules are not the same.
And everything you just said, okay, but everything that you just said, like I would say that like a million times more up to a point, right? Because I did shit work before this, right? And I did fucking carpet cleaning and working at the casino, getting shit on customers. But at the end of the day, right, and you know this in your heart to be true, even if you don't want it to be true, and I know it to be true now, right? I've explored this over the past 6 years now. I know it to be true. You're just as much a public servant, even when you're working the menial jobs, because your livelihood is always going to be determined in the ring of public approval, whether or not you're a menial whatever, or you're on your own, you're self-employed and you're doing whatever. If you fuck up massively or whatever, you always have to answer to the public. No, there's no job in what we do in esports, right? When you live and die on public opinion, there's no way that you can ever escape that reality. You're always living by
exactly.
That. It's always going to be.
And I totally get that, right? So this is my point. This is why this is not about reality. How many people right now that are like pushing for me? And again, you know, you just see these retards in chat now, like, oh, you're so done in esports. You've dug a grave. I mean, you are stupid, clueless. You have no idea how to behave. Blah, blah, blah. I mean, if any of this was true, of course, I would never have held a job at any point in my life, be it esports or otherwise. But, you know, if I couldn't do any of these things, if I didn't understand that I was like in the public eye, if it wasn't all about public opinion, then yeah, right, fine. But you don't always have to fucking pay the piper with everything you have. And that's what people are going for now. I fucked up at DreamHack. I am no longer getting DreamHack work. Why isn't that enough for people? Well, I'll tell you why. Because they are fucking... It's just a mob. It's just to see how much they can influence the esports landscape. That's all they're interested in. They're not interested in the rights and wrongs of it. There isn't a single person who's going after my job that legitimately cares about Loader's well-being or even cares about the situation. The situation's done. I've said it, me and Loader are fine as far as I'm concerned. I'm pretty sure as far as he's concerned. He hasn't been tweeting about it. He hasn't been pushing the agenda or anything.
All right,
so it's ridiculous. This is about driving people's own agendas, right? As I've said, there's a book by John Ronson called "You Have Been Publicly Shamed." People just love it. They just love to take everything they can away from people so they can justify their own lives. And if you do not bow down to the fucking mob, you get fucked harder and harder and harder. And that's all this is about. It's just so ridiculous.
All right, Moose. You there?
Yo.
Hey.
Yeah, I'm here.
What's up? Yeah, you got a question for us?
Hey. Yeah, I had a small question first. Richard, do you think this is a conspiracy by ESL to make you and Torin not join any of their productions by MTG?
Absolutely not. And anyone who says it is fucked in the head. It's nothing to do with that. Nothing to do with that whatsoever.
And well, my question was about professionalism in esports. Well, like I saw on Twitter that everyone called you not a professional. Is this what professionalism is? Like, what do you guys feel constitutes professionalism? Like, what do we perceive as being professional in esports? Like, do we want to have what Robert said about being corporate, being suits? Or is professionalism just a high-quality production? Like, what is it?
This is literally like a conversation on semantics. I mean, like...
Yeah, it's... Professionalism
in esports is going to be a lot different than professionalism at a blue-collar company, which is going to be a lot different than professionalism at like a wedding caterer company, which is going to be a lot different than professionalism at like a giant like sports TV event, which like, I mean...
Or just generally being professional, like, in a etiquette standpoint. I mean, it's... Yeah, that's a lot of differences.
You could argue that swearing is unprofessional, but there are a lot of professional casters that do it at like, during like games. I mean, there's a lot of things that esports people do that would be considered professional in some regards or unprofessional in another arena. Like this is kind of just like a question on semantics, I think. I mean, there's no doubt that like getting into a fight with somebody, a fist fight, is almost universally unprofessional, or probably the goading people on Twitter is probably unprofessional as well. But I mean, to what extent? I mean, I don't know. I feel like this is kind of like a really big semantics question.
No, but like I'll definitely feel this because I've got plenty to say about it. What people mean when they say unprofessional, and this is an American thing primarily, and I've talked about this before, is that what professional means is at all times outside of your job or in extraordinary circumstances while you're doing your job, you behave in a way that will gain you public approval. That is what professionalism means to an American. No, fact is not even up for fucking debate. That is what it means to the average American.
What does professionalism mean? Say it again.
Well, right. So if your work, right, basically, if your ability to go like above and beyond and be like super nice and never do anything that's going to upset the general public, and to also be able to sort of deal with extraordinary circumstances and blah blah blah. This is professionalism.
Okay. Sure.
Right,
Okay.
so it's not even up for fucking debate. That is the American interpretation. That is why whenever you do anything, the general public like, look at that motherfucker who wore them. He wore that shirt with fucking women on, right? And people were like, "Oh, that's like the most unprofessional, sexist, misogynist." People just absolutely hammered him until he quit his job in tears. Did he do anything unprofessional? Of course he didn't. Of course he didn't. Does it reflect on his profession? Absolutely not. But the point is, if somebody can get offended or upset about it, they will push you and drive you till the fucking ends of the earth until you fall in line with what they want. And that's what professionalism has become. Now, for me, I would say professionalism is, during almost every esports event I've ever done, there's been horrendous delays. Talent doesn't necessarily get looked after. We don't get water. We don't get food or whatever. There's always all these problems coming up. What we do is, we fucking knuckle down. We don't let it affect the show. We do the show. That's professionalism. Despite all of this drama that was going on, I went on camera, and obviously it would have been bothering me. I went on camera, didn't let it show, finished the show. That's professionalism. Doing 15-hour fucking days for a company that doesn't pay you any fucking overtime, if there's a delay, that's professionalism. You just suck it up and you do what's right. However, go on Twitter and call someone who's shitting on you a cunt, and now you're unprofessional. All that other stuff ceases to exist, and in that moment, you become unprofessional. And that's ridiculous, but that's the nature of the beast. Professional no longer has anything to do with your job. It's about the stuff outside of it. It's about how you handle public perception, the media, and not offending people. And frankly, I don't think any of those things necessarily, except in a few very specific circumstances, I don't think those things are a reflection of how well you do your job at all.
Right.
Like, do we need something like this? Not that we need something like this in esport, but like, do we need this kind of atmosphere in esports where we have to be professional, where we have to
Dude, you are never off camera now. This is esports. You are never off camera. All right? You are never out of the spotlight. Ever. You will always be scrutinized. And because of social... Right, if you ever want to know why your players are fucking so mad and so salty every time they lose, it's because of social media. If you ever want to know why people are fucking losing their minds, social media. Because here's the fucking dichotomy of social media that you have to deal with. And that is that in this day and age, you can't ignore it. You have to have it. You have to have presence. It's a revenue stream directly if you know how to use it. And you have to be involved in it. All right? But here's the other problem. You work an emotional job. It's hard. It's tough, especially for players. And people have this level of access that they wouldn't have if it didn't exist. And you've also got a tool that allows you to express your opinion, very often clumsily, because it's 140 characters, and in a split second. And if you even want to take it back, you can't. You can't, because there's a screenshot, there's an archive link, never gets away from you. And then what happens is those people that take those things, put it on their social media, and it spreads and it grows. And if it goes fucking viral, it snowballs out of control and you get absolutely fucked. And everyone's so conscious about that. This is why everyone's like half crazy in esports, because we entirely exist on social media. So the spotlight's absolutely fucking massive and it's on all the time. When I'm at an event, right, you don't understand what the pressure's like, because you go to the event, you have to work, you're on camera all the time, backstage you're interacting with people, you're interacting with other talent, other egos, other people that obviously have social media presences, producers. Then you might go for a break, you walk from one point to another just to get a bite to eat, because obviously no one's going to bring you a bite to eat. Now you're dealing with fans. That's even more of a pressure cooker situation. You're tired. You know, the show was an 18-hour long one yesterday because of delays, and you've had 4 or 5 hours sleep, and you're on camera, and you're wired on coffee, and then you've got to just walk through like a group of fans, and there's nobody there to just take you from point A to point B and maybe speed things up. You've got to go. You've got to sign it. You can't say no to anybody. You cannot say no because then it's a Reddit thread. You can't say, sorry, mate, I haven't got time for a photograph. He makes a Reddit thread, doesn't he? And says, Richard Lewis, what an asshole. Wouldn't even take a photo with me. So, right, got to take the photo, obviously. Yeah. Trust me, it's unbelievable the spotlight that people in these sports live in. And there's no balance there. And it's all on social media. And you've just got to fucking deal with it 100% of the time. And that's the other thing as well. On top of that, the worst thing about social media is it gives fucking idiots a degree of access and an illusion of importance that they would never have if it didn't exist. For example, let's just say 30 years ago, I wake up and I go, man, it'd be great to tell the Prime Minister of Britain what a fucking cunt he is. Well, what am I doing? I'm putting that in a letter, aren't I? I'm writing that in a letter, and it's going to go to his secretary or whatever the fuck, and they're going to open it, and they're going to be like, this guy's a nutcase, and it's going to go in the bin, and I'm going to go on a list, and that's the end of that. Prime Minister never has to deal with it. Now, this day and age, I just tweeted the Prime Minister. Obviously, it's an intern, so it's a bad example. But you just tweet and tweet and tweet and tweet and tweet. If I want to talk to Destiny, I just tweet and tweet and tweet. Fuck you, you autist, kill yourself. You know, I can do whatever the fuck I want, right? And he can see it, okay? And now here's the beauty of it. That guy can do whatever he wants. And nobody will condemn that guy because he is a nobody in inverted commas. Even though he's somebody, he's a very real person. He's a very real person who fucking exists, right? He's a very real person who exists. But no. He's a nobody because nobody else on social media knows him or cares about him. The minute you reply, brother, you can't do that. The game is fucking rigged. You are not allowed to reply. You are not allowed to have human emotions. Basically, as soon as you are put up on anything even akin to a pedestal, you've just got to suck it up all the time, 24/7, get shit on, get abused, get harassed, get threatened, even to the point where you even have to leave your own fucking house with your girlfriend because people are threatening to fucking come round, kill you, rape her, which has happened to me in the last 18 months. And you have to go to a fucking holiday in Cornwall while the police look into it, right? And that's the shit I have to put up with. Oh, but apparently if I tell some fucking guy who's threatening that he's an asshole, I'm the problem. So fuck all of that noise. It's not logical. It's not rational. I'll never fucking buy into that bullshit. If that's what professionalism is, I'm going to be unfucking professional for life. So fuck them.
All right, thanks, Moose, for the question.
You, bye-bye.
Okay, Jacob wants to call in. Jacob Wolf from Daily Dot. Hey, Jake. You there?
Yeah.
Hey, what's up, man? You're on the
Not
show.
Much.
Welcome, buddy.
So I guess like something I kind of wanted Destiny's thoughts on it as well, right? So, but I know Richard knows a lot about it. This fucking EU Exodus shit, where like every EU player wants to take a contract to NA. So you have like people like Froggen, who's obviously said he wants to do it. You have like Dexter. You have Yellow Star, who just took an NA contract to TSM today. You have Rainover and Huni. So like, what are your guys' thoughts on this whole like grab? Basically, what happened in Korea last year, but in the EU this year.
That's a job for Destiny.
What the fuck? I mean, for StarCraft, wasn't it usually like people feel like the NA competition is easier and they try to get a bigger salary because they hear NA players get paid more, so then they take NA jobs, and that's kind of like the dream. That's how it used to work with like, talking players in StarCraft, but I don't know what the fuck recently is going on. Like,
Jake, are you talking
especially anything having to do with Dota or League? I have no fucking idea.
You talking about in terms of like what we think of the teams doing that, or
No,
just the players going?
Like overall, like the players going more than anything.
Well, I mean, the players are going to go where the money is, right? I mean, or where the opportunities are. So that's a very logical thing, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, like I just wanted to see if any of you had any input or like opinions on that kind of thing overall, because like there's a lot of people that have done it. Pretty much in every team, nearly every team in the NALCS now has a European, except for like Cloud9.
Do they? I don't know how LCS works, but do they just? I mean, like that would be my guess. Don't they just figure that they can get good money on an NA team, and and NA competition is easier? Is that not what they figure? Like,
well, it usually depends. So, like, I think the thing with like H2K is like one of the highest paying orgs in Europe right now, and that was the whole like 5.5 fucking K meme, right? Like with the H2K CEO like talking to Svenskeren, and like that's like the biggest or one of the highest paying salaries in the whole entire region, which is the whole reason Huni, Rainover, and Yellowstar have left now, because Fnatic cannot pay them nearly as much as TSM.
Yeah,
so,
but I've told you about this multiple times, Jacob. You know it as well as I do. You've rang in asking a question you already know the answer to, and that is, look, everyone is cutting fucking corners because they know the big dime is about to drop and everyone's going to make a fortune.
Yeah.
And they don't want it to go, or rather, they don't want to lose the bulk of that to the players. They simply don't. And meanwhile, other regions that are better at monetizing or have better partnerships in place or are getting these billionaire fucking investors, obviously they're in a better place to offer ridiculous amounts of money. So they're going to take the talent. And nobody, you think about where all the philanthropists are, it's certainly not in Europe.
I mean, it's only natural. I would say the only the only thing that kind of sucks when this happens is, with this whole NA and EU and just regional delineations, kind of lose that, right? Whenever you see that in things like StarCraft, for instance, right? Whenever Koreans start going to the EU, playing on the EU servers or just joining the WCS EU or joining WCS NA, then it kind of loses that whole, okay, this is like a North American team, not just where the team is based, but the actual players represent North America, and these players represent Europe, and these players represent Korea. You kind of start losing that, and I think eventually it's inevitable that in a capitalistic world, there's gonna be a mix. And what will end up happening is just these NA and EU labels will just be artificial. I mean, they're not going to mean anything in the very, very end.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I think the whole like region locking and making people declare is like obviously a good step. Like now you have to make people that could go to two different regions declare one region, which is actually something Riot I think has done right. But yeah, like.
Especially in League, it's like, like in StarCraft, there's an issue with ladder. Like ladder in certain regions need to be improved, and region locking, can potentially help that. With having people to have to live there. Koreans have to come and live in North America and play on the ladder and things like that. But with League, it's probably not as severe of an issue as it is. I mean, I don't think it is it? I don't know. Is the League of Legends ladder like substantially better? Same issue as in StarCraft? Do you guys know?
It is in Korea, but pretty much everywhere else, no. Most people can compete. So
yeah. All right. Well, thanks, buddy.
No problem.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't rant about that more, Jacob. I've obviously got my mind on other things. I won't let you down next time.
All good, dude.
All right, later, dog.
All right, let's take a few more and then we'll call it a day. All right. Saitama.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, buddy. Welcome to the show.
Hey, buddy.
How's it going, guys?